This week on ANN, the Adventist Church in North America reacts after a fringe group takes out a hateful ad in a Tennessee newspaper.
The Adventist Church and ADRA in Colombia team up to help those in need.
And we find out all the details of the new online Adventist Encyclopedia.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America, or NAD, is speaking out after a full-page advertisement was published by a fringe organization in the Nashville Tennessean.
Not only does the ad briefly mention the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but the group also used quotes from Ellen G. White, one of the Adventist Church's founding members, out of context.
The statement from the NAD in part says, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America is deeply disturbed by the two hurtful ads recently published in the Nashville Tennessean. The claims made against the Muslim community have caused pain and strife. We soundly reject these hateful and dishonest words. Further, we need to be clear, there is no connection between the Seventh-day Adventist Church and this group and their teachings, which serve to hurt and cause disharmony.
The statement also requested the Nashville Tennessean repudiate the advertising and state there is no connection between the Adventist Church and the fringe group. To read the statement in full, visit nadadventist.org.
Dozens of Wayuu indigenous families in La Guarilla, Colombia, received food baskets, thanks to initiative of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, in Colombia. The Wayuu families have been forced to follow quarantine guidelines because of the coronavirus pandemic, and many have not been able to work and earn money for food. Almost 100 of the most needy families were selected recently and adopted for several weeks, during which they were given food. The district pastor who oversees the work of the church in the Paraguayon, Eliezer Tabadoa, said that many families have been harshly affected. He said their economy depends solely on the sale of goods on the Colombia-Venezuela border, and since it's been closed since March 14 due to the coronavirus, there's a serious economic crisis, and more so with the basic needs increasing. As the situation became more dire, church leaders pleaded for donations, and as a result were able to assist the Wayuu families with rice, beans, lentils, flour, eggs, pasta, milk, salt, and oil. The groceries were distributed in the months of April and May by ADRA Colombia, in collaboration with the Samaritan Foundation and Adventist members. So far, church leaders have distributed 220 grocery bags in the municipal district of Maicao to the designated 92 families selected in La Guarilla. Plans are in place to continue helping more needy families who are struggling during the quarantine regulations in the Wayuu communities.
The Adventist Church of Gaspar Alto in Santa Catarina recently celebrated their 125th year anniversary. Founded on June 15, 1895, by 10 families of German immigrants, the church now holds services for about 50 active members. On Monday, June 15, a virtual celebration was held to mark the date, attended by descendants of the pioneers, pastors, and Adventist Church World President, Pastor Ted Wilson. During the meeting, the congregation's official website was launched. At the virtual address, it is possible to know its history, view old and current photos, take a tour of the museum, and schedule an in-person visit. Pastor Erton Kohler, president of the Adventist Church for South America, also offered a video greeting to mark the anniversary. This celebration is special for all of us. It represents the beginning of Adventist work throughout Brazil. Today, we are the largest Adventist country in the world, and it all started with the vision of those pioneers from Gaspar Alto. If God has done so much in these 125 years of church, I am filled with confidence in what he can do still in this pioneer church and in the church throughout Brazil. Congratulations.
Recently, Joanna, a third-generation Adventist and musician, turned the chairs of 3 out of 4 coaches during the blind auditions for Voice of Bulgaria. She was even asked to sing a second song, and that made her a real star. Her second song was trending at #1 on YouTube for a month and generated more than 3 million views. That is more views than the song sung by the original artist. She introduced herself as a believer in God right away and shared her faith all through the competition, despite the fact that she had been asked several times by journalists not to talk about her faith. Joanna was adamant, "I can't help it. I owe him everything." After singing her own spiritual song, her coach told her, In these times when virtues and values are somehow out of date, you appeared as a bright ray of light and are the absolute antithesis of the reality that surrounds us. You are a symbol of humanity, purity, and sincerity of a great gift of God. To me, you are hope. Ioana writes her own music and lyrics and plays guitar. Last year, she won the children's competition for Bulgaria folk songs. She attends Roma Seventh-day Adventist Church in the town of Chiorostel, southwest Bulgaria. This Roma community has the densest Adventist population in Europe. There are 1,300 Adventists living there among 12,000 inhabitants.
Even though the COVID-19 pandemic has brought the world to a halt, Maranatha volunteers are still working to spread the gospel and improve communities. This week, we hear how they're working in West Africa. Maranatha Volunteers has more.
Despite the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to impact many aspects of daily life, Maranatha is still providing churches, schools, and clean water around the world. Work in the country of Zambia is progressing in areas where it is safe to do so. One major effort underway is a multi-classroom project at the Emmanuel Adventist Secondary School. The addition of classrooms will provide much-needed space on campus. Local crews have also begun constructing one-day churches and drilling water wells in rural areas. In the West African country of Côte d'Ivoire, Maranatha has been able to continue work at 2 sites. In the town of Anan, crews just wrapped up construction on a new church. The old sanctuary was torn down because the government is building a new road straight through their property. Now, the congregation will have a new place of worship in a new location. In another part of Côte d'Ivoire, crews have been putting the finishing touches on a new church and school classrooms for the Abbé Broquois congregation. For years, this group met on a patio. The new church and school will provide a quality place of worship and the only Christian school in the area. In Kenya, workers have been sheltering in place to complete work on 2 school campuses. For the past 2 years, Maranatha has been working at the Kiutini Adventist Secondary School. The latest renovation involves landscaping. Crews poured sidewalks and planted flowers and grass on a significant portion of the campus. So far, Maranatha has helped to build multiple buildings at the campus, including dormitories, bathrooms, showers, a kitchen and dining hall, and a water well. Prior to these projects, students were staying in rickety structures with dirt floors. There were only a couple of toilets, and students had to shower outdoors in a muddy, fenced area. Students now have a safe and beautiful environment to live and learn. Work is also continuing at the Kajiado Adventist School and Rescue Center. For nearly 20 years, the school has provided a home to girls escaping child marriage and female genital mutilation. Maranatha's work on the campus has enabled the school to grow by providing more dormitory space as well as secondary school classrooms so that the girls can continue their education right on the campus. And after restrictions in Kenya were lifted, Maranatha's one-day church and well drilling crews headed into the field to continue their work in the Ukambani region. To learn more about Maranatha's work around the world, visit Maranatha's website at maranatha.org.
After the COVID-19 pandemic spread globally, the country of Peru closed down its borders, leaving 50 Brazilian students stuck at the Peruvian Union University.
This week, we have the story of how these homesick students got home to Brazil.
Recently, 50 Seventh-day Adventist Brazilian students were repatriated from Peru. The complex operation was an effort that demanded collaboration between institutions and governments. The result was evidence of a lot of behind-the-scenes work and the hand of God. Because of the government-instituted lockdown in Peru due to the COVID-19 pandemic, 50 Brazilian students at the Peruvian Union University were stuck and desperate to go home. Seventh-day Adventist Congresswoman Damaris Moraco worked with the Itamaraty to try and transport students from Peru to Brazil. During the same time, members from the Mormon Church rented a plane to take their missionaries who were working in Peru to Brazil. When Dr. Ko was informed about the Mormons' flight, She made a special request, and thankfully, the Mormons gave 45 seats to the students, free of charge. Unfortunately, due to the Jorge Chavez International Airport being closed, the flight was canceled by the Peruvian authorities. Then, finally, after a lot of work behind the scenes, the students left the country from the military airbase in Peru by Azul, a Brazilian airline company owned by a Mormon. The South American division provided insurance to all the students and assumed the responsibility of transporting them from Peru to Brazil.
Coming up, the new online Adventist Encyclopedia is being launched on July 1st.
We sat down with the editor, Dragoslava Santrak, to find out more.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath, and we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system: the creation grid. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
The new online Adventist Encyclopedia will be launched on July 1st.
This first of its kind website will feature thousands of articles and resources about the Adventist Church.
We sat down with editor Dragoslava Santrak to find out all the details.
Thank you, Dragoslava, so much for joining us today on ANN. You are the managing editor for the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists, so I appreciate you joining us for this interview before the launch. My first question is for you is, when people hear about the online encyclopedia, what should they expect to see?
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for having me. When people go to the Encyclopedia's website, to the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists online, they will first of all see a beautifully designed website, a very modern, clean, and user-friendly online encyclopedia with over 2,000 articles, over 3,500 images, and a growing collection of historical videos.
That's great. So what types of articles can people expect to see there?
There are many, many types of articles representing the diversity and richness of Adventism. I have to say that the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists is a worldwide church project. Therefore, we have articles from almost every single region and place on this planet Earth. People can read biographies. These are my favorite category: biographies of missionaries, evangelists, church administrators, educators, church members who made a significant contribution to the Adventist Church in their territory. Then our readers can read articles on church administrative units, for example, the history of unions and conferences, the division, articles about institutions such as hospitals, schools, articles on ADRA in various places around the world. And also another category that I appreciate very much are the articles on mission projects, where people can actually read what's been done in the past and maybe generate some ideas for mission today. So many diverse topics, and of course articles on global issues, what Adventists believe on certain important issues and topics, and of course articles on Adventist beliefs. I would say that there is something for everyone's interest and taste. Yeah,
that's really exciting, because not only will it help you learn about the people who make up the Adventist Church, but also a little bit more about church structure. Yes, and how our church is structured. You mentioned that you love biographies. Are there any articles within the new encyclopedia that you that stand out to you that you consider maybe your favorites?
I would mention, for example, a German nurse. Her name was Erna Krüger. She was a missionary nurse in Egypt and in North Africa for almost 60 years.
Wow.
Now, why I'm mentioning her? Because when she and her husband Emil were called to Cairo, to Egypt, to start a medical center there, it was beginning of the 1930s. Her husband died a few years after they were in the field, and not only did her husband die, but their only son died a few months after his passing. So Erna was left by herself, and she faced a choice whether to stay or to go back to Germany. And she made a very brave choice. She decided to stay. And not only did she stay for a couple of years, as I mentioned at the beginning, she devoted 60 years of her life to mission in that part of the world. She learned Arabic. She participated in the opening of Adventist Mercy Home. That was an orphanage in Egypt, and she was its first matron.
Wow.
She was known as Mama Kruger. She was, in fact, Cairo's Mother Teresa. So that's one of the stories that really stood out for me.
And so the online Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists will be launched on July 1st. It will finally become a live website. Can you tell me where people can go to watch the special launch program?
Yes, so as you mentioned, the premiere, the launch program will be on July 1. So it's in a couple of days, and it will be at 3:00 p.m. at the official YouTube channel of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So it is the official YouTube channel of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Okay.
The link can be also accessed to the Seventh-day Adventist Church Facebook, Twitter, and I believe some other media as well. So July 1, 3 p.m.
July 1,
East
3 p.m.
Standard Time. Yes.
And we haven't mentioned this yet, but what is the website where people can go and read all of these fascinating articles? What is our new website?
So the website is encyclopedia.adventist.org. I believe it's easy to remember, encyclopedia.adventist.org. It's a free website available to all. Yeah.
So on July 1st, at encyclopedia.adventist.org, all of these resources, all of these beautiful stories will be available for everybody to access.
Yes, you are right. You are right. And I would like to add just one more thing, that hundreds of articles are right now in editing processes and will be published on the website soon. So the goal is to publish another close to 4,000 articles by mid-2022. So by June 2022, God willing, we'll be having over 6,000 articles online.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Slava, for being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. God bless.
You too.
Coming up, Ashley Chisholm is here with This Week in Adventist History.
But up next, Adventist Mission shares a story of confronting loneliness in Norway.
Welcome back.
In Sortland, Norway, loneliness is a key challenge among both the elderly and the young.
But Adventists in the region believe connection is the key.
Adventist Mission has more.
So we spoke to some of the leaders in the municipalities, the mayors and these things, and sort of representatives. And we asked them what are the real needs in the community. And one area that really stuck out as a major need was loneliness.
In Sortland, Norway, loneliness is a key challenge among both the elderly and the young. About 1/3 of the teenagers here say they feel lonely.
So this is why we started thinking, well, what can we as a church do to contribute and meet that need? We're trying and failing and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and through that learning. They don't necessarily know the name of God and who He is, but a lot of people do believe there is a God. And so belief in God is quite typical, at the same time as traditional church is seen as problematic in regard to the core cultural values. This region was one of the key areas for Adventism in Norway. We had areas here with the highest density of Adventists in all of Norway. And now our churches are very much dying.
Similar to many places around the world, the church has lost its foothold, struggling to be known as an integral part of the community. Can the church still be relevant here in Sortland? Pastor Kenneth believes so. The key is forming connections where people are and meeting their most painful needs.
The family structures is sort of something also that's under attack in this region. Sort of a lot of unstable family relationships. So we had a family retreat recently. We wanted to place a focus upon families spending time together. So that was the overall goal, strengthening family bonds.
Over the 6 days of the retreat, the 8 families focused on spending wholesome time together. Organized activities like crafts and games provided opportunities for bonding and a lot of laughter and smiles.
It was very positive. It was very encouraging. They were so grateful because these families were also families that couldn't afford vacation themselves. So this was part of it also. We were offering them a vacation experience, and they were just so grateful for that experience. And friendships building over that week we spent together was, so it was a very encouraging time. It has been sort of quite touching also seeing how God has been opening doors that we did not expect. When they see we as a church really wanting the best for the community, so they've given access where we can sort of be quite bold and open about faith, and it's received quite well as well. So I think this is not something we've been doing, but it's seeing how God is working on the lives of people and the hearts of people and opening doors that seemed very closed.
Please pray for church members in Sortland, Norway. Pray that God uses them to overcome the challenges of loneliness, broken families, and skepticism in the community, and that through this, people can come to know Jesus personally. This quarter, a portion of your 13th Sabbath offering will help build a center of influence for Pastor Kenneth and the church members to host programs and events geared toward the community. The offering will also help construct an urban center of influence in Cyprus and establish a church in Serbia. Please consider how you can support these projects through prayer and by giving to this offering.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting adventistmission.org. Then click on videos at the top.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to Ashley Chisholm for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we hear a special poem written by missionary Jesse Rogers.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. The June 21st, 1898 issue of the Advent Review and Sabbath Herald contains a poem written by Jesse Rogers. Jessie Edna Hawker was born in the U.S. state of Indiana on May 13, 1872, and she died in Durban, South Africa on September 26, 1948, at the age of 76. An educator by training, she met and married her husband Joel Rogers while they were working at Walla Walla College. An article on Joel Rogers will appear in the upcoming Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists, which launches next week. Shortly after their wedding, the Rogers took a course of training at Battle Creek College and then set sail to work for the Adventist Church on the continent of Africa. Jesse first taught at what is now Helderberg College. It was while the Rogers were in South Africa that Jesse wrote the poem that appears in the pages of the review. Don't worry, you'll get to hear the poem in a moment. During the Anglo-Boer War, the Rogers returned to the United States on furlough, where Jesse served as secretary to Arthur G. Daniels, then president of the General Conference. When the Rogers returned to Africa in 1907, they established new mission stations in Malamulo and near Lake Tanganyika, and then they were assigned to work in South Africa, eventually making their home in Durban, where Joel pastored and Jesse provided assistance to immigrants to South Africa from the places she and Joel had labored in for many years. According to the writer of her obituary, Jessie Rogers, quote, considered herself a missionary to the last. When reading the words of her 1898 poem, it is easy to imagine that Rogers continually pointed to Jesus and his love throughout her entire life. Titled For His Own, the poem reads, in the glory of the sunset, ere it faded into night, almost seemed those mansions pictured, almost imaged homes of light. Golden dome and gilded turret, gleaming tower and glistening throne, which the great love of our Father is preparing for his own. For his own, O love unfailing, though the sunset pictures fail, though their mansions sink to shadows, though their gorgeous tints grow pale, give us faith to grasp the promise I have told thee, and it's true, that those mansions now preparing are for you, my loved ones, you. Just a little down time's pathway, brightly gleams the pearly gate, and the hosts of choral angels, earth's triumphant throngs await. Harpstrings touched by angel fingers, echo loud the glad refrain. Lo, he comes, by saints attended, freed from sin and death and pain.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from around the global Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of 3 John, chapter 1, verse 11.
The passage says, "Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.